Hello brother. Glad to see you on the new recap. The manhwa is very cool, I hope for your like and viewing until the end, then the second part will be released 100% and I will be glad because I really like this manhwa. Enjoy your viewing. The world is a big anomaly. Once someone uttered these words. I was driving in a taxi through a busy city. Arriving at the place, I asked the taxi driver to wait. Can you wait here for a couple of minutes? My destination was a flower shop. There was a sign on the modernly executed building. Kanran Flower Shop. When I entered the store, I heard a typical welcome. Looking around, I saw flowers of different varieties and colors. For every taste, so to speak. I pointed at the first pot I saw and asked. And what is it? The girl answered with a smile. Ah, it's a money tree. It was so named because the leaves resemble banknotes in shape. The money tree is often given for the opening of new shops. Give me one. The store had a very pleasant atmosphere. The radio was playing. To the next news. The huge storm that took place in Sokcho was recognized by the government as a natural phenomenon. Suddenly, the girl wrapping the pot for me looked at the radio and said. And who will believe it? How could such a storm be natural? Besides, there were plenty of witnesses. Continuing to wrap my purchase, the girl asked. Have you seen photos of the storm? A natural phenomenon? Funny? I didn't show any emotions, I was just waiting for my order. After all, I knew that the cause of the storm was not nature. I was there. And a picture of a black dragon soaring in the sky over the sea floated before my eyes. And there are several tornadoes around him. I was floating in the sky in front of this monster, with a knife in my hand, and behind my back was a red monster. It's been a while since I've fought with a dragon. So much water has flowed since the last dragon hunt. After these words, my red partner and I rushed at the black dragon. After that, a battle ensued, and a huge pillar of purple energy burst into the sky. Suddenly the girl's voice pulled me out of my memories. Our world has been plunged into chaos lately, don't you agree? She handed me a carefully wrapped flower pot. Yes, it is. I answered with a small grin, handed over the money, and took my order. Have a nice day. The girl who sold me flowers was left alone in the store, stuffy. With these words, she took off the handkerchief covering her head, and her long elf ears appeared in the light. The world is a big anomaly. Once someone uttered these words. You can't just come into the human world and steal their rights consciously or unconsciously. But does this mean that only the human world is a normal place? Glancing at the orcs and elves walking down the street, I got back into the taxi. Sorry for the wait, we can go. Sure. The driver started off and turned to me. My driver was a cross between an orc and an elf. A creature with huge elf ears, purple-tinged skin, and protruding fangs. It seems that you have not come to travel. Why did a person from Seoul itself look at Gangwon-do? Just like that. There are things to do. This story is about an immigration agent who controls alien immigrants on the edge of the earth. What is there in my work besides the work itself? The driver looked at me through the rear view window and answered. Well, talk business. You know, it seems to me all over the world, all creatures live the same way. I'm really tired of working. Believe me, I am too. And while our dialogue dragged on, we passed a place with a beautiful view. The Chinese blue dragon, soaring high in the sky, sailed slowly and majestically towards the city. A city whose center has become something like a portal gate. I'm going to go crazy soon, I don't want to work. It seems to me that having fun sleeping and relaxing is more suitable for my personality type. Maybe you can somehow survive without a job? I was sitting in the doctor's office, complaining about life. It was just a typical doctor's office, with lots of vegetation, shelves with documents, various electronics. And the only thing that was unusual in this office was the doctor himself. A humanoid with purple skin was looking at me, and from a distance it seemed that it was a fishman. Mr. Yi Mingzong, it seems you are a little overworked. He spoke clearly and distinctly, like a real doctor confident in his skills. There are still 3 minutes left. The doctor thought to himself. Meanwhile, I continued. Tired? Of course I'm tired. I've been doing the same thing all my life. The doctor looked at my file and thought. He really has been in office for a long time. And then he said, I think at the moment you have mental problems. If you pull the rubber for a long time, it will break. So you need to stop pulling and give yourself a chance to take a break. Here, take the pills, they will help you relax. With these words, he handed me a box of purple pills. Looking at such a box, I immediately asked, how many should I take? Considering that your next record will be in 23 years, if nothing happens, the pills are just designed for this period. After saying that, he pushed the box of pills closer to me. Kicks me out because the time has run out. Well, I'll go. With these words, I got up from my chair and heard the phrase, see you in 23 years. The doctor waved his limb at me, and I slammed the door behind me. The doctor continued to look at my dossier on the screen. Information from the screen. Personal information of the patient. 1. Yi Mingzong's hidden identity. 2. Real personality. Access to this information requires the approval of the Evangal level administration and an access code. 3. Crime. Access to this information requires the approval of the Evangal level administration and an access code. 4. Type of punishment. Labor. 5. Place of working out. Earth. Measurement 22-189. 4th class, distant lands. After reading this, the fishman flipped through the page. Medical report. To choose from. Retaining the position. A warning. Temporary suspension. Translation. Liquidation. Life without work. Impossible. While saying this, the doctor pressed the save position button. Because you will die if you don't work. Coming out of a small container equipped for a residential building, I wandered through the park, in which people were sitting here and there and enjoying the spring cherry blossoms. Nice weather. I thought. An emergency report. Immigration department. A hostage has been taken in Khan's bank. The criminal was found to have superpowers. Immediate evacuation of all residents is being carried out. A couple sitting on a picnic were talking listlessly. What came there? And, again, they probably write something like, wash your hands more often. While I was walking through the park, many people were already chatting about what had happened. A hostage has been taken in Khan's bank. Are all residents being evacuated? As expected, my phone rang. Taking out my old man's pocket, I found the inscription. Cassie. Reluctantly picking up the phone, I said significantly. Hello. Mingzong, I got you a job. Bank robbery. So you already know everything? Yes, in Khan's bank. Everyone is gossiping about it here. What about the payment? I agree. After hanging up the phone and inhaling more spring air, I said my thoughts out loud. I'm so tired. After these words, there was no trace of my presence in the park. I moved right to the scene of the events, where everything was already filled with police and onlookers. Approaching the police fence, I presented my documents. Yi Mingzong from the immigration department. The policeman immediately missed me when he saw me. Please come in, agent. I was about to go when suddenly one of the officers, presumably an orc, noticed me. Oh. Hi. And hello to you, Chonpal. There's only one criminal, isn't there? All right. My friend, an orc twice the size of me, began to tell me. The escaped man said there were 4 hostages. But only one of them is conscious. Got it, I'll figure it out. The grin didn't leave my face. And I reached into my jacket with my hand. Meanwhile, the orc was thinking. Once they sent an agent from the immigration department. Means. Taking out 4 cards with strange patterns from his jacket. A moment later, they soared into the sky with a bright light, and a pictogram appeared above the building where the criminal was. The rumor of the rhinestones went down the street. He's a wizard. He must be an agent. A huge column of smoke filled the building so that now the entrance was not visible. Well, I'm off. With these words, I waved my hand to a familiar orc and walked towards the entrance and then added. Get all the civilians out of here. The immigration department will take care of the rest. Boss. This magician. What? Isn't his job catching criminals from other countries? And our criminal is a Korean. Sighing heavily, the orc officer began to wail. Here you go. What do they teach you only at school? Don't know the difference between a migration department and an immigration office? Sorry. I worked at school at night, I didn't have enough time to study. And if I studied well, I wouldn't work here. This guy seemed too honest to the orc. Reluctantly, the commander began to explain to him what and how. If we talk about the migration office, these guys control all migrants from other countries. Use force if necessary. But this man, he's from the immigration department. The narrator's face clearly clouded at the mention of this department. What are they doing? The junior officer asked uncomprehendingly. They control immigrants from more distant places. What? That is our criminal. The guy was clearly scared. Exactly. He is a guest from a very distant place. When I entered the building, I found overturned furniture, among which I saw 3 unconscious people. I decided to check the information on the criminal and at the same time check the recordings from the camera. No, Kengu, 21, is unemployed. Recording from the camera. A young man stands with an old woman hostage and shouts furiously. If the police come in, I'll kill that granny. Get my car ready now. And the guy is not easy. His special powers were awakened last year and were officially registered. I tried to use them as an advantage and applied to a security firm, but was refused. That means he's not that cool. I decided to look around. Going further down the corridor, I was hailed. Hey scum. Stay where you are. How did you get here? To my right there was a turn into a new corridor, about 20 meters away there was a guy with an elderly woman hostage. He was clearly nervous and asked furiously. Have you fulfilled my requirements? Is the car at the bank? He continued to yell and held the old lady by the neck. Strange. I said indifferently. We didn't do anything. And what? The guy was furious. His hand lit up with a green glow, he directed the force, and one of the flower pots flew in my direction. Telekinesis? Interesting. However, something is wrong here. Why would he suddenly rob a bank? Do you think I'm joking? The flower was approaching me, but I didn't even look away. Too easy. Stretching out my hand, I just caught the flower pot and forcefully threw it against the wall. I told you. If you don't want to see her melted brain, follow my requirements. The guy somehow gently held the grandmother by the neck. It seemed suspicious to me. But I didn't measure the facial expression. Boredom. Why don't you leave her? The guy just got even more mad. I'm not fucking kidding. Interrupting his anger, I continued. You've already ruined my mood. I give you the last chance, give up and you will live. But if you touch her. Before I could finish, the guy had already sent several printers and chairs in my direction. Fucking asshole. He shouted. I slowly took those cards out of my pocket. And with one movement of his hand, he threw them at the corners of the wall. After a moment, the cards began to emit lightning, which connected with each other, forming a force field between us. Flying objects crashed against him like a concrete wall. What the? The guy clearly didn't understand what was going on. How is he? How did he do it? I pulled the knife out of my sleeve and said. Last warning. Let him go. Pointing a knife at the violators, I'm waiting for an answer. So you're a mutt from the immigration department? I can't believe it. Did you understand everything at a glance? Suddenly Grandma's face changed. Now it wasn't she who was afraid, but the guy behind her back. I'm not a fool. I blurted out, which caused Granny to laugh hysterically. Ha ha ha. Meanwhile, the guy came to his senses. Wait. I wanted to open a bank account. This Granny came up and started talking to me. And then what? He tried to pull his hand away from Granny, but nothing came of it. Small-looking flesh-colored wires were already binding his arm and the neck of this elderly lady. What the hell? The guy shouted. He crawled away from the old woman trying to tear off the wires, but nothing worked. I kept him in a trance for a long time. Despite all the nonsense he was talking. The old woman was saying something, but I interrupted her. 3 attempted murders. 12 murders. There are 9 robberies. Possession of illegal books. Staying in a primitive dimension. And that's not counting all the crimes on Earth. I spoke slowly and clearly. playing with the tip of the knife with one hand. And so I looked seriously in the direction of the old woman. He put the knife in his palm and then cut it. Blood spurted onto the floor. Granny couldn't understand what kind of dark energy it was. I don't understand what he's doing, but you can't just stand and watch. The old woman shot her tentacles at the guy lying next to her and began to suck something out of him. Apparently it was energy. Forming a clot of energy the size of a cannonball, she shot into the wall that I created. The wall was not designed for such an amount of energy and broke apart with a crack like glass. A lump of energy was flying at me, but I didn't even raise an eyebrow. Having flown to me at a distance of a meter, it simply dissipated, as if crashing into an invisible barrier. I started to cast a spell. As my cast was completed, more and more red glow appeared around me. The black smoke gushing from my cut was transformed into red pictograms. The old woman was stunned. Come on. Black magic. A brutal force that hurts the victim and absorbs her life force. It is illegal in most countries, the only exception is when the target is the caster himself. A red icon formed behind my back, and a black entity appeared from its center. The old woman was in a panic. She clearly knew what was going on. Why does a person spend many years of his life to be able to catch small fry? A dark phantom has formed behind my back. His skull was glowing a bright purple color. Raising my hand with a knife, I commanded him to attack the old woman. That's my job. The spirit rushed forward with impressive speed. Flying up to the old woman, she seemed to be sucked inside the spirit, grabbing her hands, he tore them off without hesitation. A piercing scream filled the room. From places where there were hands until recently, a green substance splashed. Without giving the old woman a break, the spirit bit into her side and without any problems deprived her of this part of the body. Rolling into the corner of the room, the criminal finally began to show his true face. The skin began to slide off as if it was made of jelly. But the spirit didn't care. Grabbing the body by the head, he was about to finish what he had started. I approached with a little sense of satisfaction. A grin was plastered on my indifferent face. It sucks when you're beaten by an ordinary person, right? The criminal did not lose hope. Wait. Spare my life and I will reward you. Without a fraction of interest, I sat down on my knees and asked. How? The alien began to speak. Do you know why so many criminals are infiltrating the earth? It's all because of the prediction of a great magician. He says that in one of the most distant dimensions scattered fragments of the soul of the worst criminal in the history of the worlds. And I have a clue where to find his soul. This information is very valuable. If you let me live. Before he could finish, I spoke out. Do you think my department will give the go-ahead? Rather, he will kill immediately on the spot. That's enough, I've already heard enough of your nonsense. Wait. You? Why is your arm okay? The sacrifice that was made for black magic is never restored. So why? Who are you? Those were his last words. And where is your past confidence? Inhaling a little air and looking at the suicide bomber, I said. I don't know myself. Thank you so much for watching. Like it and bite it everyone.